Dive deeper into the illicit shadow economy in the much-anticipated third installment of National Geographic's Emmy-nominated docuseries Trafficked with Mariana van Zeller. Mariana joins me now with the details. Thank you so much. First off, what is the goal of this show?
You know, I think most people don't know that these black and gray markets actually make up for half of the global economy, and yet we know so little about them. So that was the goal with this show, is that in each episode we tackle a different black market, whether it's scams or guns or drugs. You know, we really sort of go behind the curtains and gain unique and rare access into these worlds and get to meet the people who are working, who are the smugglers and the traffickers, you know, the criminals and the outlaws.
Yeah, so fascinating and scary, the fact that you're saying it's closer than we think. So when and why did this become your life's mission?
It's a great question. You know, I was in New York, where I am right now, on 9/11. I was a journalism student here, and 9/11 happened, and I ended up doing all the live reporting for Portugal, where I grew up. And I had very little experience. I had never done live reporting in my life. But that day really changed me. When I went out of the streets of Manhattan, I started seeing the posters of people who were looking for their loved ones. And I realized then and there that I wanted to sort of cover this darkness in the world and understand why it happened. So a year later, I actually traveled to the Middle East and moved to the Middle East, to Syria, and started reporting on what was happening there. And that was the beginning of my sort of obsession with black markets and the underworld.
Wow. How are you able to gain access to the trafficking world? Seems a little scary.
It's also the hardest part of my job. I mean, it takes months, sometimes even years to gain access. You know, I've done many trips halfway around the world where I waited around for people who didn't show up. It's not easy, but I think partly it's, you know, persistence, but it's also showing up without much judgment. I'm there to listen to people's stories. I'm there with empathy much more than judgment. And I think that really goes a long way, because people, you know, it's a very human characteristic that even for people who we consider to be, or who many consider to be the bad guys, they still want to be understood, and we give them an opportunity behind a mask to tell us their story.
Wow. What's one of the most shocking stories you've discovered? Because like you said, you've been traveling all around the world.
Well, this season, you know, we really try to focus on stories that were in the headlines, you know, whether it's gun violence and ghost guns, or crypto scams, or cyber piracy. I mean, these are all stories and subject matters that affect us on a daily basis. So in this season, we really try to tackle, you know, let's pick up these issues that we know are there, that we know are affecting us, and how can we try to understand why they're happening and who's sort of pulling the strings behind them. So I think it's a really eye-opening season because of it.
And then what would you say is maybe one of your most dangerous assignments?
They're all dangerous in different ways. You know, we don't look out for danger. We don't chase danger for danger's sake. But, you know, I've traveled and worked extensively in Sinaloa with the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico. I've worked and, you know, filmed with gang members here in all over the United States. You know, I was actually in Jacksonville filming an episode of Trafficked just a few months ago. So you'd think that these black markets exist in faraway places, but they're really all around us.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck. Whatever you're doing, be safe. But we'll learn a little bit more about your world when we watch that show Trafficked with Mariana van Zeller. Season 3 premieres Wednesday, January 18th at 9 p.m. on National Geographic and available the next day on Hulu. So again, thank you so much. And if you'd like to see this segment again, just head to our website, firstcoastliving.net.